Villain bets, I call, turn a jack, and he bets again, and this is starting to get pretty ugly for pocket aces again. Hey everyone, this is Uri for Guerrilla Poker. Today I'm gonna make a video about a slightly painful subject for me. This video is gonna cover all the times that I folded pocket aces on GG Network 1K NL last year. Being able to fold aces is actually an extremely important poker skill. Having a hand that's extremely good and recognizing cognitively and emotionally that the situation has changed, and even though you started out the hand expecting to win, folding is probably better than putting in more money. So extremely important skill in poker is being able to let go of good hands when you realize they're no longer good. That being said, let's jump in and look at some of these hands. So in this hand, UTG raises, 3-bet, calls, we get Queen 4-5 two-tone, C-bet small, relatively good board. I think you can C-bet with most of your 3-bet range, and our main bluff in this hand is going to be specifically Ace-King. 2 overcards, really good bluffing hand, and that's a hand that's probably going to barrel off quite often. So bet flop, turn the diamond. Not the best card. I think our hand is probably still good enough to bet, but not to put in a lot of money at this point. When the flush comes in, you have 2 black aces. If stacks go in, you're just not doing well. I decide to check back. River, queen of clubs. Again, really bad card for me, right? Before I was beating flush draws and pocket pairs and queen X, then the flush draws beat me. Now the queen X beat me. What am I really beating at this point? Club floats. Right? Like ace jack of clubs, ace 10 of clubs. I'm beating pocket pairs, and I'm beating something like 6-7 suited non-diamonds if they decided to call. Not much else. So villain open shoves. I think this makes my decision fairly easy. At this point, I might as well have 2 napkins in my hand. Aces is obviously a pure bluff catcher, but even had villain bet something like $200, I think this is a very, very reasonable spot to just fold 2 black aces and move on and not even give it a second thought. Not beating any value bets once the bet gets big. It's fairly tough to find enough bluffs, so just not a good spot to call. Okay, next hand, we have limp, BVB, ISO 4x. Yeah, and it looks like someone posted. So we're 3-handed, ISO 4x, small blind calls. Complete and then calls often actually going to be low cards, low pocket pairs, low suited connector. It can be whatever though. So he checks, I bet, he calls, turn 7, he checks, I bet, and he calls. We get the river, jack of diamonds, and villain pot donk bets. First thing I want to do is evaluate, am I beating any value hands? Do I think that villain would get here with something like king queen or king 9 and pot donk for value, and then I'm beating value bets with my aces? And the answer for me is clearly not. I don't think that that's ever going to happen. And once you realize you're just bluff catching, just imagine instead of pocket aces you have something like ace 7 or ace 10. That's a more realistic representation of what you want to do and why it's not too hard to make this fold. The only flop draw was a straight draw. I don't really know what villain has, I just know it's pretty tough for him to be bluffing. He would have to maybe call with 4 or 5 of clubs twice and then decide to bluff it, which certainly could happen. I do have a club, but still with no information. This is just not a very bluffy looking line. I have a weak hand, so fold. So next one, you have button raises, 3-bet, too small 3-bet. I like 3-betting 5x. I don't know why 3-bet is small. Queen 7-9 two-tone. Start out with a big bet, it looks like. So big bet is actually really appropriate for this kind of board texture. King 10, king jack, jack 10, 10-8 suited, 9x and queen x are going to be lots of hands that easily peel a small bet in the range when you have the queen and the 9. So sizing up and playing more polar I think makes sense. Villain calls, we get 5 of diamonds. And really, I don't know what could have made me fold here. If I had to guess, I'm going to check turn, which you want to do sometimes. Need to be a bit tricky, protect your checking range. Villain checks back. And yeah, just a very bad river, right? On the 8 of clubs river, I now lose to jack 10. I lose to clubs. I decide to check. Villain bets. And again, what you need to think with pocket aces is, given the action, is villain gonna bet worse for value? Is he just gonna bet king queen for this size? And if you think the answer is yes, he will get here and bet with king queen ace queen, you have to call. If you think the answer is no, and I tend to think the answer is no, then again, you're looking at the bluff catcher. These pretty aces become more something like ace 5 or ace 9. And then, given how ugly the board looks, I think folding is reasonable, but this one is certainly closer than the previous ones. Next hand, I open aces on a button, get a caller from the small blind. Always tend to put these guys mostly on pocket pairs and suited connectors, more so than the big blind. He checks, and I decide to check back. The reason I decide to check back is that this guy called from the small blind, and it came a 3 and a 4. Calling range from the small blind hits this board quite a lot, so aces is not really as strong in the hand as you might think, and it actually makes sense to check it back sometimes. We get jack of spades turn, villain checks. I have my tricky hat on, I decide to overbet. Here, given the action, obviously you guys can see I do check back strong, so I think any queen is probably strong enough to do this. Of course, the board is not lacking bluffs, but I get check raised when I overbet. At this point, I think I have to call. The hand is just too strong, but flush comes in, 5-6 comes in, villain shoves. And at this point, similar to all the hands before, villain is not going to be value betting worse than aces. He's not going to have ace queen and shove here. At least I think that that's fairly unlikely. If he has ace queen and shoves, that would make this a really bad fold. But if you think he doesn't have ace queen and this is more like 2 pair plus and flushes plus bluffs, then again, this hand doesn't have the ace of hearts. It has nothing special going for it, and it's just easy fold. Here I 3-bet button versus cutoff, get called 4-bet. How did I manage to fold? So it looks like I decided to trap against the cold 4-bet in this hand. Had I shoved, obviously I couldn't fold, so we expect this to happen. And we get the queen 10-5 board, the villain bets, I call, turn a jack, and he bets again, and this is starting to get pretty ugly for pocket aces again. So on the turn, presumably maybe villain has pocket kings. Plus I have a gut shot, I have a draw to top set, so it's a bit tough to fold. Get the river 10, villain shoves. This one feels close. Is he playing kings like this, going bet shove? Is he playing ace queen like this? If you think the answer is yes, you probably have to call. If you think the answer is no, it's just gonna be very, very tough to find bluffs. When you think about what a cold 4-betting range looks like, this is 100 NL ranges that we have for sale on the site. You can see first of all, the trapping aces is a really big thing. It's what you do most of the time. Cold 4-bet range looks like this. So, in order for the big blind to have bluffs, you would have to either go with a hand like king jack or ace jack or pocket nines and just barrel off. Pretty much almost impossible to have bluffs. It's very, very tough. You have to be a very, very accurate hand reader and be very aware of ranges to even have bluffs in this scenario. So the only way I think I can call with aces is if I think he is going for it with king queen or ace queen or kings enough of the time. Personally, I did not think so. So, decided to make the painful hero fold. Definitely some of these hands are closer than others, and the thing that makes them close is always, will villain bet worse? That's always the question you need to ask yourself before a river bluff catching decision. Am I beating value? If you are, generally folding gets a lot harder. If you aren't, first of all, you can mentally let go of aces. Bluff catching decisions are generally low EV decisions. Focus more on your opponent's range. You think it's a good spot, a bad spot, and make kind of easier decisions than what do you do with aces. That's it for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have ideas for similar types of videos where I review a certain hand type or certain situation, let me know in the comments and I will get to that in the future. If you haven't checked out the Guerrilla Poker website, we have a course about how to improve your red line. We have GTO pre-flop ranges. Like and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you next time.